Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Denny Dumas podcast. Tonight's episode was super fun. Very good friend in our crazy, wild real estate industry, Tim Hill. He's got a lot of experience. He has a lot of introspection. Is that a word, Carl? Not totally sure. We're going to go with it. In our crazy industry, it's wild right now. If you don't use me, use him because he is one of the good guys. Fun, very fun conversation. Enjoy. As a realtor in Greater Vancouver, it's very frustrating on a weekly basis, especially in this crazy market where there's like one good house that comes available every 6 months. Or so it seems. How have you adopted your handling multiple offer strategy, and what do you see on the buy side dealing with multiple offers? I know we're quickly talking about it, and I have a lot of thoughts on this stuff, and you can find a lot of them on that Garbage Demo Real Estate podcast, but it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. Share your comments whenever you're ready.
I mean, lack of consistency is a big one. Right? Like, what are you walking yourself into that day?
It's so hard representing a buyer and them asking you, well, are we going to like get told how many offers there? And your answer to that is, I don't know.
We hope so.
Well, are we going to get like a callback if we're close? I don't know. I hope so.
Well, literally, right?
Yeah.
I mean, prepare them for the worst case scenario. I usually tell them, expect you're not getting a call back. If you put your best foot forward, at least you have a chance of acquiring at the price you want to. I mean, further to that, just knowing that you took your swing at it, right? Get the call back, you can always make the change. But if you never get the call back and you regret it, that's not fun, right? Especially limited product, like you're saying. When does the next one come up if you miss it?
That's the thing about being a listing agent right now, is understanding that I think a lot of the old school people in the industry think they're being unethical by... They think the callback is demanding more money versus the callback is giving people an opportunity. Because the problem right now is, as a buyer, you literally have no idea what you're up against until like the final 5 minutes of offer deadline. And even then, like, how many times have you had multiple offers on a place and you're like, I think we're going to get like 6. And then in the last second, 3 agents you've never heard of.
The ghost offers, right? Like, where'd they come from? Oh, you didn't even ask for documents.
You're like, John?
Who are you? That's actually...
Did you come through? I've never seen this guy's name before. Who is he?
We try not to put too many documents on MLS because of that. So we can control who has them to have an easier list to follow up with. It doesn't make it perfect, obviously, but at least we know, okay, X people got documents. Why people asked about dates, whatever it might be, have a better idea. But yeah, you just never know till the dust settles, right? I mean,
it's so funny. And then you'll call John. I'm just making up this name, but you'll call a mysterious ghost offer John and be like, "Hey, John, it's Denny Dumas." He'll be like, "Who?
What property was that?"
You're like, "You just send us an email on this property." You'd be like, "Oh yeah. Did you come through over the weekend?" "No." "Did your buyers?" "I think so." You know, like, it's always the same conversation. Anyway, absolutely. From a buyer's perspective, it's interesting to note that your chances significantly go up if you have a good offer. If your communication with the listing agent is really good.
Key. Yeah.
If you've never spoken to the listing agent and don't even know who they are, chances aren't that great.
I'm sure you can attest to it too, like relationships.
Man,
right?
It's huge.
Being on the right side of the listing realtor, it can be helpful, right?
And that's why I disagree so heavily with I call them old school agents. It doesn't mean they're older people. It just means their thought process on dealing with multiple offers is old school.
That mentality
is best offer wins. In my opinion, it doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help your reputation. It doesn't help your seller. It doesn't help the buyers understand what is actually going on in these processes. It just frustrates them, and then it leaves a bad taste in their mouth about you and your reputation in this industry. I don't understand what is the harm of calling every single person. And every single person some people will disagree with. I'll always call every single person, but if you have 15 offers and there are 3 that are well above the rest, I get the argument that you call those 3 back.
Mm-hmm.
But I've just seen too many times. And I remember one house specifically last year in New West. 17 offers, call everyone back. One group that was originally $130,000 less than the top offer at the beginning, one came up 180. The problem, and I keep stressing this. The problem in buying a property in these markets like this is you're guessing the sale price, right? You're guessing the property value.
Can't even go off of the last sale anymore.
You're almost going off of the last sale and then you're saying like another 3%?
I mean, I've
5?
seen stuff even last month selling 10% over what I thought it would.
Yeah. We've seen this before, right? We saw this in single family from 2015 to 16, then in strata from like 16 to 17 and 17 to 18.
Early 18.
We saw that the fall always has a similar feeling, right? The fall has a feeling of very low inventory. Some sales start to like get, record sales in the building or higher than what you thought they were going to happen, but the inventory is really low. And then it's like a switch flicks in January, and it's like, boom, next sale is not $5,000 higher, it's 10% higher.
Yeah.
And then that's a new precedent, and then people are going kind of off of that.
2021's irrelevant already, right? And we're
literally
5 weeks into the year, sorry.
Irrelevant.
But it's irrelevant, yeah.
Like before we started the podcast, we were talking about townhouses in Port Moody, because we're in a townhouse in Port Moody, and like this one, it's $350,000 less than it was 12 months ago.
Yeah.
We talked about Klahani. Klahani was selling the good ones that were renovated in the high 9s.
Yeah, I saw a number transact in 9 last year. Yeah, absolutely.
Monica got one, a 3-bedroom one that was in poor condition last year for $890, I think. $890. And the reason that we're talking about Klahani is because one sold last night for $1.28 in very mediocre condition.
Without working appliances.
So that's why as a listing agent, I always feel like it's an obligation to the seller, but like it takes 5 minutes to call everyone back. Even if there's 15 offers, it takes 5 minutes. Each conversation is 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Call everyone back. Hey, it was busier than we thought. We thought there was going to be 7 offers. There's 13. You're not in the lead. Would you like to win? Okay, you got to improve.
Mm-hmm.
That's your buyer's best and final. So thank you so much for the offer. Really appreciate it. See you later.
And you're doing what's right for your client. You run them through the scenario, ask them if they're okay with doing that, and then you work in their best interest. What you're doing at the end of the day.
As a realtor, your reputation means so much, and those extra few phone calls, the client doesn't expect, nor do they even know that they're allowed or ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
But when you show them that, that's when you go from being like, oh, sweet, I got a really good sale price on my house, to you need to use this person.
Yeah, you're a superhero.
They were fucking phenomenal,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
What a weird industry we're working.
Well, customer service goes so far, though. That's my strong belief anyways, right? Word of mouth, through the industry, referrals from the past clients. You do a great job for them. I mean, the rest just snowballs from there, right?
You don't have to work for those leads. Like a lot of leads that you get online or someone finding your website or whatever, they're interviewing multiple people. Those referrals, especially when they're really good because you went the extra mile and like that person is saying, don't ever sell your house without Tim. Don't ever, whoever, right? Those mean so much to people.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you're not in an interview anymore.
Well, I know I'm positive you've had it where people will call you and just say, when can you come list my house?
Yeah.
It's not an interview process. Just how soon can you get here?
What is the number that this is going to sell for?
Yeah.
What number do you need to put on the listing contract, and just bring that?
Well, last year I walked in the door to one. This was, I found even further how trusting they were with me the second I walked in, went through, didn't even get halfway through the listing presentation. So can we give you the keys? I haven't even given you a number yet. It's not evaluated. Yeah, it's okay. We don't want to drive back here. It was a rental property. So you show me the parking, storage, give me the tour. So I've got it. Get back to you with the numbers. They said, yep. And, sold it in like 4 or 5 days. Right? And they're happy as can be. Got what they wanted out of it. I was like, you're giving me the keys, nothing signed. I haven't even given you a number yet. We haven't agreed on that, but slam dunk, right?
Have you ever not met a client in person?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is that a common thing or what?
I mean, it's not super common for us, but like it's happened a few times, and often with investment properties where either it's a referral or someone, like one we had last year was someone just had an investment property in New West and just Googled like realtors in New West or something and found our website and called us and he's like, "Hey, are you in New West?" Like that was the first question. I was like, "Yeah, sorry, who am I speaking with?" And whatever, it keeps going on. He's like, "I think you're a realtor in New West." I'm like, "Yeah, that's right."
Nailed it.
He's like, "Yeah, I have an investment property. When can you pick up the like?" It was the same. When can you pick up the keys? I was like, "From where?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny, man. It's been really cool for me in the last couple of years to see the difference in that like first interaction. So my first like 3 or 4 years in the industry was a lot of nice to meet you, how you doing, whatever. Just so you know, we're interviewing 3 realtors. Awesome. Here's a little
Yeah,
spiel.
no problem.
See you later. Versus now, it seems like so much more often we're walking into appointments, buyers or sellers, and they're just saying, "We've been following you on social media. We listen to your podcast. We, whatever. Our friend used you.
They've
down the
already
street 2 years
interviewed you
ago."
silently, right?
They've been watching you for years.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a cool, powerful thing for our industry, for a lot of industries, of how social media can be like I always say it's like my 24/7 resume.
Absolutely.
People find your website, then they go to your social media. People listen to the podcast, whatever. Then they go to your social media and they like get a bit of a feeling for your personality and who you are and how you work.
Mm-hmm.
And
they look up what they want to know. If it's your reviews, if it's your marketing skill set, right? Like they're going to go to what's important to them.
Mm-hmm.
The question's already answered.
Totally. How'd you get into this industry?
Oh,
I don't think
gosh.
I've heard this background
How
story.
much time you got?
And how long have you been in the industry?
Since 2008.
Same as Jamie.
Yeah, I guess so.
Jamie
I knew we
was
started around the
2008,
same time.
Yeah.
I thought he was 07 for some reason. And my license was December 23rd, 2008.
Okay, I think
It
he
was-
was early 28.
It was
2008.
Yeah, it was snowing. Still remember that. Now we get a lot more snow. But I was pretty happy I bought a Durango a couple weeks before and could actually get around. Went from driving a sedan to that, to your Realtor mobile. I mean, for me, so I got in when I was 20. I picked up the course when I was 19. Did it right away. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. That was a challenge beforehand. Like first 2 years outside of secondary, it was like, what did you want to do? I mean, where do you want to go, right? So young, you don't really know. And all I knew is I wanted to be in business. And so did a little bit of post-secondary, played around with that. And Derek Thornhill was my neighbor, actually. So he's a longtime New West realtor.
Of course.
Kind of had the over-the-fence conversation. And he had said to me, "Oh, you ever thought about selling real estate?" I was like, "Nope." But tell me more. And the conclusion I came to at the time was that I didn't really want to put in 5, 6, 7 years of schooling and not know if it was what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be at that point in my life and, okay, well, now this isn't what you want to be, right? So I thought, you know what? I know I want to be self-employed. I want to run my own business. I'll give this a shot. Gave myself a 3-year plan, a 5-year, and a 7-year. And each time I got to those eras, I guess you could say, it was where I wanted to be. And so by year 5, I knew I wasn't leaving. And it was a struggle the first few years, though. Holy, right? Like, it was not easy getting it off the ground. But now can't see myself doing anything else. And just passionate about people, actually like architecture of real estate, love the building side of it. And now we're here 14 years later.
It's kind of cool the progressions you go through, right? Just from personal experience, the first couple of years was just, I need to learn as much as possible, as quick as possible about everything, about how to review strata documents, about like what to talk about as I'm going into a buyer showing in a condo versus a house versus whatever. And then it gets to the point where you're so comfortable and confident in the actual job of being a realtor. And now you're like, how do I add more value to people?
And you
that
get
is
better
construction knowledge. That is like architecture. So as you kind of progress in this career, you are dealing with different types of people. And often when you're 20, 19, getting into the industry, I was 24, a lot of your clients are your peers, are the same age,
Well,
24.
For me at 20, none of my friends had any money.
Exactly.
So that's why it was a struggle. I had to earn their trust for when they would be able to buy.
But it often starts like buying 1 and 2 bedroom condos and then selling 1 and 2 bedroom condos. And then you like keep progressing. And now you're talking about with friends and past clients about buying a piece of land to build a house, and what should my house look like, and what's going to be best for resale, and should I do this? And it's kind of cool to have all this background of me 8 years, you 14? 14 of like so many conversations and transactions and learning experiences. And have you done a reno?
No renos on my end.
Okay,
no.
so I did a big reno, and that was a huge step forward in my knowledge career, or knowledge, whatever.
Learning curve, we'll call it. Whatever.
I like this guy. Yeah, right there. In my learning curve, 100% of just being able to be confident in talking about the actual like ins and outs.
You understand the product, and that's a value.
Huge.
Right.
And then it's also kind of interesting to go through that, get a bunch of knowledge from that, and then see how much of our industry struggles with talking about that in showings, right? People are walking through, and a lot of realtors don't even know what to look for and discuss as they're walking through an old home.
Yeah, type of countertops even.
I know. So that's one of the things when people will like be like, "Oh, that's a stainless steel fridge." When you're just pointing out the most obvious things in the world.
Thanks, tips.
Yeah, that's it. Or if they'll ask if it's renovated, like they'll walk into like a 1920s home and they'll be like, "Is this home renovated?" And you'll be like, "Look around."
Yeah,
like that's a really anyway. But there's it's so many things, and it is it's such a huge, going back to the idea of building your reputation in this industry, building your brand, and building this referral source that like every client you're working with is, yes, very important to treat very well, do a good job. They're going to love you for it. But if you're adding value to them and walking through a home and talking to them about, in the inspection, you're going to see these things because they're really obvious. There's poly B piping in this house.
Yeah, it's like
you can see it.
The unconscious knowledge that we have that you don't even realize how much you know sometimes until you start explaining things to clients like, I never would have seen that.
Yeah.
Right? Totally over their head. Mm-hmm. But for us, it's our everyday.
It's right? Totally. I was talking to Carl. I was like, I really like when Carl has a mic in these podcasts, especially when I'm talking with realtors, because a lot of times we'll like say lingo or things that are super common to us and we don't even think about, but to an average consumer who's bought or sold one time in their life or 3 times in their life,
or every 20 years,
understand.
Right? Like
totally.
So much changes.
Don't understand. Like I just said poly B piping, and I bet a lot of people that listen to this or don't have no clue what
they're Googling it right now.
Yeah.
And something like that is so important to know, right? Huge. And it's so easy. It's just a few things that you can know, you can pick up that can make such a big difference in the sale.
Absolutely.
A new realtor just joined our team. She's like brand new to the industry. Obviously, there's like a big learning curve at the beginning. And one of the first things I said to her was go to every single inspection you have the opportunity to, whether it's like my client, Monica's client, anyone on our team, go to every single inspection you can. Like try to go to 100 inspections this year and ask questions. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
If you don't understand what he says, she says, whoever, just ask the question. Because if you don't know what it means, likely the buyer has no idea what it means and they're probably too shy to ask, right? But that's how I learned a lot. And then doing that big reno was like just a huge step forward. Huge. Because we did everything, right? It was all knob and tube, so all new electrical. And then you get to see these costs too, right?
Yeah, and then the true costs, right?
Yeah. But then as you're walking through a home, you can give very accurate numbers on what is it going to cost to replace all the plumbing because it's all poly B.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. Are you doing a reno already? No. Well, you're going to have to open up all the drywall to get to the plumbing. Have you thought about that? Oh, shit. Yeah, no, I didn't think about that.
You don't just snake it through.
It was really cool. We pulled an oil tank, all new plumbing, all new electrical, added like hookups for a suite downstairs, all cosmetic.
Did you hit anything during that scared you or like wasn't expecting this and oh shit?
No.
No, okay.
The added thing though on this specific one was there was 2 PIDs. So we had the back lot, which didn't have any services. So we had to run an easement down the side of of the front house to run services to the back lot. So that was kind of the cool thing that like a normal house reno wouldn't see.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think so.
That's good though.
And on the back lot, we got plans approved with the city, got a demo permit for the old garage. So I got to like chat with the city and see how they very inefficiently deal with things like
It's a historic city.
Oh,
Things
it sure
happen
is.
slowly.
Sure does. I don't know if you've ever been to a Queen's Park committee meeting or something like that. Have you ever been to one?
No, and I'm pretty thankful I haven't.
You should go. It's an experience. So we have a client. My brother is part of this building company. Him and his father-in-law and his two brother-in-laws. They've built a couple homes in Queen's Park. They just did a big reno on a home in Queen's Park that we sold last year. When they bought this house on 4th and Regina, they started chatting with the city planning department. What would you like to see here? Would you like to see would you like to see more housing here?
And more density.
And the city recommended to them, we would like to see more density in Queen's Park. It's all single family. There's like one
Park
townhouse
Row, right?
complex, in the 80s or something. We'd like to see more density. It's one of like the nicest neighborhoods in the city.
Beautiful, yeah.
We'd like to see more people living here, more young families. And so they did this big proposal of like raising the house, turning it into a duplex, keeping the existing exterior, but like cutting it down the middle basically to have two sides and a laneway house.
Okay.
And in these initial conversations, they're saying, well, like, is this going to be a strata? Is it going to be like a single title, or is it going to be 3 different titles? And obviously there is a large cost involved in owning 3 doors as one title. Like that could be a $3 million property in Queen's Park versus cutting it up into 3 titles and having 3 separate families own $1 million, whatever. And so the city said, yeah, we'd like to explore the idea of stratification and getting 3 different young families in here. Then they bring this Queen's Park committee out.
Of course.
Because that's the part of their process. And the project is discussed, whatever. There's a couple people that put up their hands and just talk about their feelings, which is very strange to me as someone sitting in the background trying to support this opportunity for a client and like my brother. One of the people said, I remember, I can't remember the lady's name, but Susan. I'm going to say Susan. I remember my friend Susan lived on this street. I used to walk to her house. There was a smell of her mother making cookies coming out. And this is just ruining our neighborhood. I almost burst out laughing, but in trying to be respectful. Next guy puts up his hand and he says, I propose.
He wants to tell them what to do with it?
10% of the profits are shared with everyone that lives in Queen's Park. And I just felt like putting up my hand and I'm like, then you fucking put up all the capital.
Well, let's start doing the math anyways.
What are we talking about? It's just so crazy. Anyway, after all the angry old people in Queen's Park decided that it wasn't a go, the city said no. After they told...
Yeah, they encouraged it.
Vinny's company probably put, I don't know, somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 worth into plans to do this proposal, and then that they were encouraged to do, and then anyway, it got shot down. So they just did a reno and moved on.
Did what they do best, I guess.
It is
make it look better,
but at the same time, it is valuable for realtors out there. If you have clients that are doing renos and like developing, try to stay involved in those communication. Just even call your client afterwards and be like, hey, how did that conversation go with the city? What did they say? Just to learn. If you're not doing it yourself, try to find the information somewhere.
Well, I'm sure you remember the moratorium in Queen's Park as well.
Oh, man.
And there was properties were getting sold by people that didn't know there was a moratorium coming. So, knowledge, as you said,
100%.
Knowledge is power. Know your product, right?
Jamie has that house on 2nd Street.
Yeah.
And he's been working on
Is he ever going to do something with it? Or are they going to let him?
TBD. I mean, like, if land just keeps climbing, the motivation to get the project done is low, obviously. Are they going to let him? Not totally sure. The plan was to build, like, his family's long-term home.
Okay,
there.
I thought that was at one point.
That was the original plan. But he really wanted a garage from the front. And Queen's Park shot that down.
Even though he has a front driveway there.
He has a front driveway and is literally his neighbor to the south, neighbor over, is like a 20-year-old home that has a front garage.
Okay.
They said no. They only want garages in the back, so they want most of Queen's Park has lanes, so it's much easier to have a garage off the back, so you don't have to have a driveway down the side of your property.
Yeah, eating up to your setbacks,
Yeah.
right?
He's one of like 10% in Queen's Park that doesn't have a lane. So you'd have to do the driveway down the side, and
Yeah, and then it's
The
a
garage is
skinny
taken
house
up.
too, and
yeah,
all of a sudden, right?
exactly. So he kiboshed that a bunch of years ago, and then tried to get explore the idea of an HRA to see what he could get FSR wise out of it. Is that worth it? Could he get a laneway in the back? Could he do a duplex? Whatever. I think it's still a work in progress.
Yeah. It's on the little portion of the to-do list.
I think so, yeah. Oh, well. But I do think it is, it's super valuable to, whether you're going through it or not yourself, to just kind of like stay up to date with that stuff. Whether it, as a new realtor, it is going to inspections to just learn like basics,
Mhm.
or if you start having investor type clients, like learn from them. Carl's a contractor. Carl does home renos. Like anytime I have questions about, oh, I don't know, what does that cost to replace? Or like, can you actually do that? It's like such an easy phone call to have a
They get the
friend or a
quick notes from
contact
him.
that you can just say, hey,
Absolutely.
what is,
You need that in your business directory, right?
it's huge.
We aren't going to know everything, but if you know the right person to call for, you get the answer for the client, they're just as happy, right?
It's just back to the, how do you add value? There was I remember a home inspection 2 or 3 years ago. So I had a lot of knowledge, maybe not as much as I do now about construction, but a lot. The home inspector said a new torch on roof on like a small 60s house was going to be $18,000. I was like, it seems pretty high. I'm going to guess it's like 8 to 10. That's a big gap.
Mm-hmm.
And so the buyers were a little confused. So I called, I can't remember if it was you or someone. Anyway, called someone else and be like, hey, new torch on roof. I'm going to guess the square footage is like
X by X.
1,200 square feet top and bottom. So let's say 12 to 1,400 square feet of roof. It's like, like 6 to 8 grand. Like, all right, sweet. But it's really valuable for people to have access to that information immediately.
Well,
right?
we don't see torch on roofs on single family very often.
I know.
So that's a bit of a stumper, right? Like you just...
I knew from asking a home inspector that they are cheaper than asphalt shingle roofs. I don't know why.
I guess because they just roll it and then use their flame, right? But
I've never seen one put on. Don't know the exact process.
I know
Probably
there's
why.
a building in Coquitlam that burned down over that. Yeah, I think it was in Millardville.
Over putting on the roof?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm pretty sure it was on Bajan Street.
Man, that's a drastic
like a number of years. Yeah.
Strata saves up a bunch of money, puts it in to put on a new roof. Boom.
That's why you need
down.
insurance.
The guy with the blowtorch
Sad,
ruins it all. Yeah.
And they get to do the roof again.
Hopefully they were in Coquitlam where all the zoning has changed and now it's high density and they can just sell the land. Oh, that's wild.
My question for you, Denny, is like with the construction knowledge, like the first time you started going into houses that you've never seen before, do you have a process of what you look for? Mm-hmm. Have you started noticing different things and telling your clients? Like, how does that work?
I'll answer your underlying question first. And am I transitioning into being a contractor? The answer is yes.
Competition.
Yeah. And I just look for the obvious.
Mm-hmm.
As you're walking into the home, it's really easy to look at the roof.
Yep.
And approximate how old the roof is. It's pretty easy. Once you have seen a bunch of different style of most roofs in Greater Vancouver asphalt shingle, yeah, there's a lot of cedar, there's some concrete tile, but a lot of them are asphalt shingle, and it's pretty easy to guess the age based on the shape and the look of the shingle.
Coloring
age similar, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you can say that roof looks like it's 12 to 15 years old.
Yeah.
This type of roof usually lasts 20 to 25 years.
Yeah.
When it comes up in 5 to 7 years, you got to pay 12 to 15 grand.
There's your ballpark.
Boom.
It's so helpful.
Yeah.
You're not
It's
even
so helpful.
You're not even in the house yet,
Yeah.
and you've already told them to expect a roof. Versus them loving the house, doing a home inspection.
Yeah.
The home inspector's like, the roof's gonna die in 2 years, and then they're like, holy shit, we were gonna pay 1.3, now we got to offer 1.275.
Right.
Back in the day when we could renegotiate.
Or totally, man.
Right. That's a whole
That's
other
the-
thing, right? Let's get our subjects on there. We'll go through it.
How many deals
Get you
were
the
killed
best
after
deal.
inspection for like a $3,000 or $4,000 fix?
Oh yeah. Someone digs their heels in and
Just because
it's done.
a lot of consumers don't understand. They just get freaked by a home inspector saying this is not perfect, right?
But no
Anything.
house is perfect. Brand
Literally
new house
nothing.
isn't perfect, right?
Man, I remember in Queen's Park, we sold a brand new house. Literally, the developer just finished it. GST on top, like literally brand new. Warranty and everything. The home inspector comes through. There's 11 items on the list of what needs to be done to this home. And it was just hilarious. One of them was the cedar shingles on the outside of the home. So it was in Queen's Park. So Queen's Park is very specific about the material used on the exterior. It was like cedar shingles and I think it was hardy on the sides and the back and cedar shingles on the front. Anyway, the cedar shingles are untreated. They need to be sanded and painted. That's what one of the inspection items was. And the buyer's agent called me and I was like, have you ever sold in Queen's Park before? No. Do you know the guidelines of building Queen's Park? No. You should call the city. One of them is you are not allowed to use treated
Of
cedar
course
on the
not.
exterior. So just like silly things like that can come up in inspections that will freak a buyer out, right? On a brand new home.
All
that
of a
was
sudden they think
built.
everything's wrong with that.
Totally. 100%. Back to your question, Carl. Process. Tim, fill me in on yours too, because mine is just like trying to point out the obvious. So as you're walking into an old home, roof is a really easy one on the way in. Looking at like foundation, concrete walkways, steps up to the home are really easy things to, if the steps are sagging and there's a big crack in them and it's a trip hazard, at some point you're going to want to redo the
I actually
steps,
showed a house in Pitt Meadows. We were up in the bedroom looking at the house across the street and it was on an angle and I couldn't tell if the house we were in was on an angle or the house across the street was on an angle. And we went outside and then we re-looked at the driveway. This was a lineup to get in one of those ones. And the driveway had sunk on one side. And I'm like, well, I don't know if anything's straight on this street any longer. So we're like, get the marble out, right? Find out the way it's going.
When you build on a hill,
I mean,
It's bound to happen.
like process wise, I think it is. It's very visual. Everything from roof to windows. Like I love checking the date sample on the windows,
Yeah, so that's
right?
it's such an easy thing that no consumers know about, right?
And then
They
they
don't
look
know.
at it all the time
Yeah.
after. They're like,
Most
oh, now
windows
they
have a
know.
little sticker on the
Yeah, it's
outside.
like
It's so
and
easy.
So
Yeah.
we can find the answer for them. And okay, there you go. I mean, sure, even if they're whatever vinyl panes, right? Like they might not be 5 years old. They could be 20 years old
Yeah.
now. So like, let's get a rating on that. And yeah, just seeing like letting them understand what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
I mean, inspectors, they are great. They find things we don't. But if you can eliminate some of those questions beforehand, they have a better chance of knowing what they're buying.
And preparing them for it, right?
Absolutely.
Like Poly B is a really easy one.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact age. Is it like early 80s or mid 80s to like 94 or something like
yeah,
that?
right. That, I mean, asbestos is another one, right? Up until the early 80s. Aluminum wiring.
Yeah.
Well, just because they kept carry over using it.
Yeah.
Right? So even though it was cut off, there was still, the product was hanging out in someone's warehouse.
Yeah,
Totally.
that's exactly it.
Right?
Yeah.
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 And they thought it was the greatest thing. So we're putting it everywhere.
When you're looking at, like we saw in a lot of cities that have hills, North Van, Port Moody, New West, wherever, right? Drainage,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Drainage is one though that like is easy to tell if it's new.
Yeah.
If it's been updated and there's all new drain tile or whatever. But if it's older, you need to scope it or whatever to actually see if it's functioning or not. But retaining walls are really easy to see.
Yeah.
Like if they're like on a big angle like this, the land is coming down. Like you're gonna have to do that eventually. Retaining walls are expensive.
Yes.
Yeah.
No doubt. Railroad tie style too. It's like, that's going to go eventually.
There's even in Coquitlam, like on the hill, there's so many, man. Remember, I think I had a client just redo a bunch of retaining walls that bought a house 5 or 6 years ago. that was like in the $50,000 to $60,000 range.
It's more expensive than people think.
It's a lot more expensive than you think. You think, oh, it's just
No.
whatever. A quick piece of concrete, yeah.
The wall is holding something back.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you have to move that something before you take the wall down, and that's the issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even just like the really easy, quick ballpark of walking through a home, maybe the kitchen's updated, but they have 2 really dated bathrooms. Oh, I don't want to use these bathrooms. How much would it cost to reno these 2 bathrooms? Spitting out a quick number to like put their mind at ease a little bit. Because a lot of buyers like think worst case scenario. Oh my gosh, there's an oil tank. What is that? Is that going to cost me $150,000? Like,
Well, if they watch too much TV,
100%.
right? Even closing costs, right? I'm sure you get that a lot. Run through the clients like, you were watching a show that was based in Ontario.
Yeah.
It's not BC closing costs,
Yeah.
right?
Also with HGTV, I think people underestimate renovation costs a lot.
Well,
They
there's
do.
always something they come across that they weren't budgeting for.
For sure. But if you are a contractor or you are like flipping homes and you're running the renovation and you're saving costs on really specific things and shopping for tile yourself and all that kind of stuff, it's a different cost of a renovation than if you're hiring a GC to do it all for you.
Absolutely.
Right? Like sometimes they spend like 70 grand renovating an entire home. And here that would cost 250.
Easy.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, 70 grand.
What are you doing with 70 grand?
I was thinking
I
you're
know.
getting a kitchen and maybe a little something else.
Yeah.
Maybe the
I'm
paint.
talking about like, what's that guy's in the show? Tarek? I think Tarek.
I know the name because,
He does like, or a lot of the shows that I've seen him on are small homes in California or Vegas.
I was
or
thinking the
something.
embarrassing part. I'm like, I know it for a reason because he's married to or dating someone from Selling Sunset. That's why I know
that's
that
his
name.
new girlfriend. Yeah. But he did a lot of like 1,500 square foot homes that are one level. So you're not really worrying about drainage because you're just on a slab. I know we're getting a little bit technical on construction now, but who cares because we like this stuff and it makes us smile.
Totally.
But he's like literally just cosmetically updating a kitchen and bathrooms and flooring.
How much
And
of the
he's
plumbing
GCing
is
it
he
all.
changing, right?
Totally.
How deep is he going and all
That's
that
true.
stuff? Yeah.
And I'm sure it is a facelift, right? That's
There's so
right.
much behind the walls. And especially in Greater Vancouver, you're dealing with a lot of older homes, like early 1900s.
Yeah, plaster.
Where you're plaster, asbestos, old wiring, old
Yeah, the knob and tube, like you said
electrical,
earlier.
old
Brutal.
drainage.
Play tile. Yeah.
I think people, I don't know what people underestimate the most, but probably up there on the list is drainage.
Yeah.
I would
Yes.
say so. It gets overlooked all too often.
And it
We
can
did-
cause so much damage and so many problems, right?
Yeah, well, water's
Totally.
the enemy, right?
We did all new drainage at the house that we did the reno on in 2019. I think it was somewhere between 30 and 35.
Yeah.
And if you're not expecting it, and then you rip off all the drywall in the basement, you're like, oh shit, there's water everywhere.
Mhm.
We have to do the entire wall or the entire drainage.
I went through a
It's a
house
big
in
number.
Burnaby late spring of last year. And why I think of that is you could clearly see that there was water ingress. And I'd been asking all week if we could get a pre-inspection before we went to see it. Just kept getting told no. We got there and I asked in front of my clients. So they knew, like, I'm not telling you can't get an inspection. Watch them tell us we can't get one. And the listing realtor did. You go downstairs, you could see the water ingress. We just turned around and walked away. Right? And it was like they were just masking it. That was it.
If you're a listing realtor and you have a buyer doing a pre-inspection, the answer is always yes.
Yeah, cooperate.
100% yes. It only helps the seller.
Absolutely.
It's not you spending $500 or $600 or whatever. It's the buyer wanting to write a subject-free offer.
Yeah, they're trying to tick their due diligence off, right?
It's so
I know.
it's crazy. It's happened a few times where we've asked to do pre-inspections and they've said no.
Yeah.
So you want us to write subjects in our offer? They're like, no, we want it to be subject-free. Like, well, this is how you get there.
Mm-hmm.
So why would they do that? Are they honestly just trying to hide something? Is
I
that the
think
only
they
thing?
were. I mean, I wasn't too sure getting into it because at first, I don't know, there was left, right, and center excuses going on. So, okay, fine, we'll get there. Let's see if we like the house. We'd pre-booked one for the Sunday anyways. And when we got there, it was like, no, we're not getting ourselves into this at all. And luckily, the next house we went to, they loved. We audibled the inspector to a different house for Sunday and they bought it on Monday. They're happy as can be. So it's like, but we had him booked, right? So his time was ours.
What are the top 3 contacts to know and have a good relationship with as a realtor?
Mortgage broker number 1.
Yep.
Right.
No-
Right
no
now,
argument.
you can't do anything without him.
No argument there.
Solicitor, I don't know if I would put that number 2, but high up the list because of how at capacity they've been, getting your clients in, quick closes if someone wants it, and being able to facilitate that.
Mhm.
I just want to say inspector off, just to fire it off without thinking any deeper.
In a market like this, like any industry, there's really good inspectors and there's some poor inspectors that I've come across. But in markets like this, where so many things happen last minute, you see something on Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. and they're like, yeah, we love it. Offers are Monday at 5. You're like, okay, well, we need someone tomorrow morning.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's very quick to fire, right?
Totally. Having someone who you can call and be like, hey, it's in 6 hours from now, but I need you there at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
It's so valuable.
It's so true. Yeah.
Because
that's our tool belt, right?
Huge.
That's it.
There's been times where I've had that exact scenario happen. Offers are tomorrow night. We're trying to book an inspection for tomorrow morning. And I've called like 12 or 14 home inspector companies. And the client is like, have you used this company before? I'm like, no, I exhausted those people.
Yeah. We were through that list
ago.
a long time ago, right? No, it's so true though.
I just Googled home inspectors in BC and went down the list.
Will you drive in?
Yeah. Fuck. It's wild. I was, who was I talking to today? Oh, I went to a showing in Port Moody today, and it was a older dude. I'd say like probably early 60s as the listing agent. And he was, as soon as I went in the door, he just started grilling me. He's like, oh, you look young. How old are you? I'm like, how long have you been in the industry? 8 years. He's like, I've been 33. And he just starts spitting out stories.
You didn't say I didn't ask?
Yeah, but he just kept talking.
Some of them are like that, yeah.
I mean, sometimes you get these like nuggets of information from older people in the industry that you kind of got to filter through the crap. But sometimes there's interesting stuff. Anyway, I'm telling a story about it, so it must be okay. He was like, this market sucks. And he was just so pessimistic about the whole thing. He's like, back in the day, you were able to write an offer with subjects and just going off. He's like, it's so hard to be a buyer. These prices are ridiculous. And I just think like, what a pessimistic outlook that every day you're showing up to work and just waiting to unravel your, arguments.
Yeah,
and
his negativity.
I just feel like it's such a bad way to run through life.
It's a dark cloud, right?
I mean, there's a lot of things about the way that the market is currently that suck. To be a realtor, to be a buyer.
It's hard to navigate. There's no doubt about that.
To be a notary, when you're like turning people away, sorry, I literally am full for next month. I can't do it.
Yeah.
It sucks for a lot. Man. And it's funny talking to people on the other end of the spectrum that are consumers that are like, oh, you must just be loving this as a realtor. We're like, well, half our business is buyers. And I don't know if you saw my Instagram stories today. I was talking to Monica this morning and we're just like sharing stories about losing basically. And in the last 2 weeks combined, we're 0 for 16 in writing offers for buyers. And it's not like we're writing poor offers. It's just like we're getting beat by really high numbers that
there's things that are outside of our control, right?
Totally.
But it's a tough goal, even I think for us from a mental capacity, right? I mean, that's a good example because being over 16, you had to tell 16 different clients or 16 clients the disappointing news. And that's not fun, right? I remember in the last upswing, on average, I love running numbers, we were 7 offers per acquisition. So it was like, that's 7 people I have to disappoint. And number 8, I get to tell them they got it.
That's interesting. That's a stat I've never kept, and that would actually be really interesting. I remember in 2017, there was a period in April where I was 1 for 23, and that was the worst. And I was telling Monica that
it hurts
this morning. I was like, try to be my April 2017.
No, that's the stuff that doesn't get always portrayed out there, right? And I'm sure you can attest to that as well. Like we deal with a lot of different things in the back end. I mean, it's people's homes, right? Like you walk in, fall in love with the backyard, like forget the sappy letter, which works sometimes, but you love the backyard, you love the kitchen, you see yourself living there, and then you're up against 15 offers. Only one buyer can get it, right? Like there's a lot of disappointment. So I find that a tough one to manage. I mean, put sometimes the clients on your shoulders, right? And then you weigh on that as well.
100%, especially when the clients are doing everything right, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of times where we'll walk through a home with someone on the weekend. Here's a random example. It's listed at 1.5. We say, comps kind of show it's like a 1.8 house. So I'm assuming it's going to sell around 1.8. If they write 1.6, it's a different story than if they're like, yeah, we know.
Yeah,
we
your
really love
probability
this
was
house.
low.
You know, this is the house for us. We love the neighborhood. This is exactly where we want to be. We love the yard, whatever. Let's do it. Let's throw it. We'll go 1.8. We'll do all our due diligence. Here's our deposit. We're ready to rock. And then when you lose, especially when it's out of your control, meaning like you don't get a call back, you don't know how many offers you're up against because the listing agent isn't communicating properly. You just feel like one, very depressed almost for the client who is like so pumped about this opportunity for this specific house. You feel depressed for that kind of relationship behind the scenes, but then you also feel like embarrassed about the way your industry is handling these
Absolutely.
these situations now. And I feel it so often. And I'll often like mention it to clients. I'll be like, I'm really sorry. This fucking sucks. Like it sucks. It sucks that there's no like proper standard of this is how multiple offers should be dealt with.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the human level of it, right? And explaining that beforehand also sets the precedent, right? But I mean, it would be interesting to even try to figure out how many times do we get a call back? How many times are we told the information without chasing for it? Right? I'll send screenshots to clients. I'm look how many times I text them, called. Like, I mean, just so you know, because like I don't want you to think I'm lying to you. I'm truly trying to get this answer, and I can't. Right? It's like they've got our number blocked or something.
That's wild. I don't know what
tough.
it is. I don't know if it's just ignorance or
I think it's a bit of laziness too. Like, you know, you got 20 offers to just whatever, forget the 19 of you. I'm calling it a night. Like, but we're all sitting there waiting.
I try to step back a little bit and try to understand their point of view. And sometimes it's the old school person who's just like, nope, this is the way I've done business for 40 years. This is the way I'm doing it forever. And they'll never change. And that is what it is. And you kind of got to read that as someone who representing a buyer and just educate the buyer going in saying like, this is the type of person we're dealing with. It's likely a one-shot deal. We got to rate as best as we can and just hope for the best.
Yeah.
Versus there's also some who, and if you look at our industry averages, right? Greater Vancouver, there's 14,000 something agents. Yeah. The average transactions per agent that do a deal per year is 6. So 6 in a year like 2021, 2022 is not enough to be really knowledgeable on what is happening.
Absolutely.
Right? So it could be inexperience and it also could just be like completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I found, I think it was, COVID was March 2020, right?
Yeah.
I think it was late 2020 where we had like a couple months of really strange, low inventory, low sales. People were just kind of on the sidelines, not really sure whether, you know, I should list my home and have people in my house. This is kind of strange. But it kind of turned
we had
really
that second
quickly.
wave too. Right?
Totally.
So that's exactly.
Totally. But I think it was late 2020 where things were just going crazy. Market was climbing and there was not much inventory. And it seemed like people were listing a home, let's say 1.2, not knowing or not really understanding that it had changed really quickly, right? The paranoia of COVID, let's say at the beginning, had kind of subsided and people were like, I need more space now.
Yeah.
Now.
Get me out of here.
And then they were listing 1.2 and being like completely overwhelmed. Holy fuck, I have 60 people that want to see this house. I thought there was going to be 3. And then they have 15 offers show up and they have no idea what to do with them. Just out of inexperience or just not doing enough transactions.
I also found the last 3 Januaries, even the one pre-pandemic, were consecutively the busiest Januaries I've ever been involved in.
Totally.
And it's just like, wow, right? So you're behind the 8 ball already. You don't know what it's going to go for. But then, you know, and I know you've been an advocate for this being better, right? We know now what prices are doing. First week of January, different story, right? If you listed on January 4th, we weren't sure. but
I've had a
we're
couple
not.
conversations with buyers in the last week, maybe, of, it seems like there's less showings now. I was like, yeah, if you notice the list prices.
Yeah, there's
Like that home that you saw 2 weeks ago listed at 1.2, the neighbor just listed at 1.6. It's a different buyer pool that can afford that, right?
absolutely.
It's a big difference. And I'm excited about that, meaning like I'm hopeful that the frenzy is going to slow down slightly coming into the spring. Hopefully there's more inventory, but hopefully people are just pricing listings more accurately where they
even
should be
reasonable,
priced.
right? I know I really thought we'd see more inventory in September after the summer. That was my expectation, right? And I would love to see it this spring as well. Just didn't happen in the fall, and will it happen this spring? We're going to find out, right? Like, stay tuned.
It's so funny that, Carl, I could talk about real estate 24/7 for the rest of my life. It's so interesting to me. There's so many like variables. Every single transaction is like a new adventure.
And
Yeah.
it changes so much.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, it's on a week-to-week basis
Totally.
now, right? Oh,
It's
two
totally
places in your complex came up? Uh-oh, right? Didn't expect that.
I met with a townhouse seller tonight in Port Moody, and based on the fact that that Klahani place sold last night for 128, it changed my valuation of their place by $100,000.
Yeah, now you're completely wrong all of a sudden, but
Oh, shit.
you weren't at the time.
125 seems really low. Probably 135, 1.4. It's wild. It changes so quickly. And it's like, what is the last sale? That's why it's funny looking back to 2014 was my first year. And I'm sure you have like a few years like this where things were flat for like 2 or 3 years. So I remember going into some of my first year or two of listing appointments and showing sales from like 24 months ago.
Yeah, adjusting for the
Hey, your neighbor sold
market, yeah.
neighbor sold a year and a half ago. Pretty similar home, 600,000. Pretty accurate sale. Versus now, we're like, this is the last sale. It wasn't even close to your house. It was like 6 kilometers that way, but we could be $150,000 higher than that.
It's the most recent comp.
There's
Really?
only one.
No,
Yeah.
I know.
December is irrelevant. Like that's
mean,
what we're saying.
I feel like a lot of it is going with your gut through experience right now,
100%.
right? I mean, you asked about that Port Moody townhome before we hopped on this, right? It's just like I think we're generally right. You just have a feeling, no, that's where it should be. That seems relevant to the transactions I've been seeing because there isn't that comp to go, yeah, your neighbor sold for X last week.
Totally. It's funny how like the amount of offers on a transaction will like push you in the direction that usually, I like to say usually I can be within 50 grand. If I'm not, and 50 grand sounds like a lot, but when the average house in Port Moody now is selling for like 2.2, 50 grand is not that much when they're pricing at 990 or no.
Yeah, 999.
They're pricing
for
at like
2.2.
199.
It probably happened.
Yeah, they're pricing at like 1.999 and selling for 2.5. So it's a bit of a guess. So 50 grand is not a bad variance to be in. But I don't know where I was going with that comment. The number of offers. So it's so valuable to have that communication with a listing agent and 20 minutes before offers. Hey, how many do you have? 6? Okay, sweet. Now I can actually provide some guidance versus like, is there 2 or 14? It totally changes. You can give like an estimation of value based on past sales, but that value will change drastically if there is double-digit offers.
Supply and demand, right? I mean, I think back to when multiple offers would happen organically, right? Say like 2012, 2013, randomly you had 2 people that wanted the house.
60 days on
right?
market.
And it was like, well, I also remember carrying listings for 6 months, right?
know.
It's like keeping those clients happy, but it's like $5,000 an offer. Yeah, okay, we'll go into this, and you'd get it. You'd be like 11,000 over asking price.
Yeah.
It was like, whew, we got it. Now it's 110,000, 200, right? And so on and so forth. But there isn't always as much rhyme or reason, right?
The last house on Heritage Mountain, Port Moody. We're talking about Port Moody a lot just because we're here and it's very, very recent. 1999 list price. Probably based on comp should have been like 2.3. Sold 2.58.
Yeah.
And now you have buyers looking up there with like a 2.5 budget and they're like, are we fucked? we can't buy in this, we can't afford this neighborhood anymore. Last one was 2.3. How to go to 2.6 all overnight. It's wild. Anyway, we should move on from real estate. What else outside of real estate? I don't know Tim Hill very well. So I'd like Tim Hill to pick topics outside of real estate.
Well, I mean, I saw the
I know you
whiskey
played
bottle,
hockey as a
that's
kid,
one
right?
thing. But yeah, hockey. Played a little football as well for the Hyaks. Hockey was my big sport, though. So
You went to New West?
Yeah, and Dub. Yeah, grad in 06 from there. That place.
Me and Carl are 07.
07, okay.
You played football?
Yeah, I did.
I don't think we ever played.
No, we
New
never
West
played
in
New
high
West
school.
for some reason. Even basketball, we never played though.
Well, I played in our first season at AAA. Ooh, did we play you guys? So, like my sports history, hockey. I mean, started skating. I think I was 1.5 or something. My dad put me on the ice, like something ridiculous with the 2-prong clip-ons over your shoes, right? And I mean, it worked because I became a good skater. But anyways, like born at the rink basically, and so I was a one-sport athlete for a long time, but always wanted to play lacrosse. Convinced him eventually to let me play.
Very New West of you.
Yeah, well, I had
Yeah.
to. Gets better though. I got one of the last cuts from the Bantam A team. I was so sad at the time, but our Bantam B team went undefeated, won provincials. It was an unreal season, so fun. I was like, I can retire now, right? Like my lacrosse season's done, and went back to hockey. Played a little junior hockey after that, and for my senior year, I was kind of toying with the idea of football. Farhan Lalji, the coach at the time, kind of poached me from doing track and field. Like, you can run. Yeah, you can run. You ever thought about playing football? I'm like, I love football. I just never thought I'd play. And he really didn't want me to play. I was playing for the Richmond Sockers at the time. So he was like, you're going to do that plus football. And I think 6 of the 7 days of the week were both sports. Like, never been so fit in my life. I don't know if I will be again. But took a run at that. I'm pretty sure it was our first season at AAA. If not, it was the next year. So that might be why we didn't play you guys. But that was also a school lockout year, so we missed a few games. And we played in BC Place, though. Lost to West Van, I remember that. And that was my football career, so still love it. I know you're a big Seahawks guy.
I'm a very big Seahawks guy.
Yes,
we
slightly.
went to private school, so we never got to take advantage of those lockouts. I remember there's a couple. One in elementary and one in high school, maybe.
Yeah.
And we always were so jealous of the public school kids. They don't have to go to school for a week or whatever.
Well, the no sports was tough, though. We couldn't practice, right? We weren't allowed to actually get
That's
together.
tough.
So that was a tough go, right? I mean, you're training all summer and getting ready for the season, and then you're in the thick of it, and all of a sudden you can't play.
Yeah.
Right. So that was a tough go, but
Why'd you want to work for yourself?
my dad was self-employed
What did
my
he do?
entire life. Well, aside from attempting to invent many things, he ran a painting business for
Okay.
the majority of his career.
Okay.
But he just always worked for himself. He would always toy with different things and run with different businesses. And I just never saw myself as being an employee. Just didn't work for me. Don't know exactly why. I just feel like it was like bred into me, right? I feel like I just didn't know anything better. And that's where real estate really came in, the over the fence conversation.
Derek Thornhill.
Yeah.
A lot of credit to that guy.
No, I know. Him and I talk all the time still, and
Do you give him like a royalty every year? Or?
no, we didn't do that. I almost went and worked at Park Georgia at one point, actually, but never made that switch. So, and I started at Royal LePage. Now I'm at the Remax office, and been there since 2013. So, I mean, yeah, definitely a lot of credit to him, though. It's a phenomenal career, right? Super fun. Get to deal with all sorts of different things, help good people, meet different people. The list goes on. I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Did you see yourself as a realtor before getting into real estate?
Not a chance. I can
know,
tell you
I
that
was the
right
same.
away.
I was the same. I thought, I think I was a fairly shy kid. And I just saw real estate as kind of like used car salesman-y.
Mm-hmm. But we don't have the best reputation.
No, we
Like as
don't.
an industry, right?
For reasons that we've discussed.
we only went over the top of it.
A little bit. But no, I was the exact same way. I think I bought a condo with Jamie. That's how I met him. He went to
Okay.
STM, but he was 6 years older than me. And I got referred to him through a friend. Bought a condo when I was 21. A couple years later, I messaged him randomly. Hadn't talked to him in a couple years. And just said, I hate my job. Thinking about doing something. I really want to work for myself. Can I take you out for a coffee and ask you some questions about this crazy real estate used car salesman business that you're part of? And I met him for like half an hour or whatever. And he's like, honestly, it's a really good opportunity. I love it. I'm really busy. I need help. If you get a license, you could just follow me around for 6 months. I'm sure some like things will fall off my plate onto yours. And if you don't like working with me, do your own thing. If you like it, we'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah.
That was 8 years ago. The first year was so crazy though. Like I want to hear some of your first year stories, but like the first year was so crazy that I literally had no clue what I was doing. No clue.
Well, they don't teach you anything when you
Literally
get your license.
nothing. So the course,
You're really good at doing mortgage calculations, and then you have
which
a
is
calculator
completely
forever.
irrelevant. Yeah.
But what is it, T1 like 180 or TI 183 or something? Like I think I still have it, and batteries are dead.
Yeah.
It was used for 6 months or whatever when I did the course, and that's it.
I was so lucky that I took a course in university called stats or something that all it was calculating annuities, which is a mortgage. And so that part of the exam was so easy for me. And my exam was like 25% mortgage calculation.
Well, it's funny how the ones in the room, you don't know what you're getting. I'm a math guy too.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I'm good with that.
Yeah. It was, anyway, luckily passed. Because at the time I had quit my job and I was like, screw it. I'm going all in. I can't stand doing this job anymore. I have to do something different. If I don't pass, I'll figure it out. Luckily I passed. But the first year is so funny because I was a little kid. I was 24. You were 20, so you're even more of a little kid. But I felt like a little kid at the time. And I had no clue what I was doing. And I was following Jamie around and listening to him talk to people from the backseat of his car and like talking about different buildings in New Eston. This is what the '04 plan looks like. And this is what's coming up in that building over there. And just being like, holy shit, this guy knows a lot about these condo buildings. Being like, how do I get there? And just trying to learn as much as possible from following him around. I got 2 good first year stories, and then you can share some of yours. But one of them was I had a 2-door car at the time. So I had a 2-door Chevrolet Cobalt.
SS?
No, I had the cheap one. That was the cool sporty model. Yeah. And it was a stick shift too. And I just was so embarrassed. And at that time, buyer tours were really popular. I got to the point where I was doing like 15 a week.
Well, and that's when you could book 6 homes in a row.
And you would pick up the client and drive them around.
And you had the weekend at least to think about it.
Weeks, yeah.
Oh,
but I remember being so embarrassed to pick up people in my car because it was 2-door and I had to like fold the seat forward to get the husband or wife in the back, and it was awkward. And so I used to borrow Jamie's car. So he had like a 2006 Toyota Camry. Not that it was much of an upgrade, but like it at least had 4 doors.
4 doors, they could get in and out
so like,
themselves.
Jamie, I got 2 buyer tours tomorrow. I got to steal your car. You take mine, whatever. So that was like one of the stories that we'll always remember is like the switching of cars in between in the first year. And then the other one was our first business card photo was hilarious. We have a photo on the New Est pier. Jamie has his camera out. He bought like a nice Canon to take his own business card headshots because he didn't want to pay a photographer to do it. And he's like, you're a realtor now. You got to take a business card photo. So I'm like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? He's like, I just show up here and wear a suit. I only have one suit. It was the suit I wore to my grade 12 grad. So this is like 6 years later, maybe. And it is so baggy. It's like 1990s casino.
It was the style back then.
Yeah. Like
We'll say
Ocean's
that anyway.
11. Yeah. Pinstripe. So baggy. It was brutal. Anyway, we take a couple team photos, but the headshots, he brought one of those big white construction board papers.
Is that your backdrop?
No, he's like, hold this under your face.
Oh, for
reflection.
Wow.
For the
Did
light.
you read about that
To
too?
reflect the sun onto my face so there weren't like shadows. And I couldn't even see, right? Because the sun is straight in my eyes off this paper. And my first business card photo, I'll keep it forever, but it's like this really baggy 1990s pinstripe suit. And I'm squinting, like smiling this. So good.
Buy a house for me.
Yeah. But like knowing nothing too, right? I'm like, this is what realtors do. This is it. I don't know. There's a bunch of stories like that. Even just the conversations behind the scenes with Jamie were unbelievable.
I had like a almost pink backdrop for mine. Supposed to be red. It looked more pink. And that card stuck around for a long time. full suit, tie, and everything. Now you won't catch me in a tie because I'm just not that kind of person. But
Me neither.
I did. I had the suits from hockey, right? Because we needed them for going to the rink. So that's the only reason I had ones that. Sure, they didn't fit that much better, but I had more selection maybe at the time. But I also think about my first deal, 31 Elliott Street, the Octagon building.
Nice.
Dealing with the listing realtor face-to-face negotiating. And it came down to $500. We finally got it done. And it was like days of negotiating. But I remember I met him at the property. I think he was doing an open house at the time. No one's going in the open house, so we got no competition. And we're bickering over $500. Got it done, though. But
we did a GD podcast this morning, just like market update from what's happening in January, basically. One of the things Jamie said was like, remember the days when we used to negotiate over $5,000? And I was like, $5,000? We used to be splitting $1,000 at the end, like just cutting it down the middle. If you throw in $250, I'll throw in $250 in my commission. The buyer will go throw in $250. Like just such small amounts of money in the big scope of things. It's just funny how you go through super different cycles of a market, I guess, and how the negotiations just differ drastically.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, even, I got an accepted offer with subjects last week. They
as a rare.
They got no competing offers, and they were not very happy about it. Yeah, absolutely. And it worked out great for my clients. We did the inspection today too. Like wow, kind of felt at ease. They didn't have to rush to the bank to get their deposit, and their broker had a chance to actually satisfy the conditions. And yeah, it almost was weird. It
is a weird conversation having with the client because you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. Like, again, our reputation and like the relationships we're building with people are so important. But when the end of the conversation says, okay, we're going to rate this offer, just be prepared. We literally have no chance. And that happens so often right now, especially like the first or second offer that a buyer puts on paper. Like I did another one tonight, and the conversation was, okay, that's what we're going to submit. We have no chance. Just be prepared that this is not going to be good news in an hour from now. It sucks because it puts a lot of pressure on you to communicate super well, right? And to set expectations early. And in that first meeting being like, okay, what's your budget? Be prepared. It's extremely competitive at that number for what you're looking for. You're looking for a single family under 1.5. I don't even know where they are.
What was tough?
I don't even know where they are.
You think about last year, right? The $999 buyer, less than 20% down payment, right?
Man, yeah.
How hard that was then. And that ship sailed, but
she gone.
That was a tough one, right? Those clients that were trying to upsize, and it's like, just doesn't exist, right? But yeah, it's tough conversations, but I think that's setting the expectation. I do believe that majority of people respect that anyways, right? You're not letting them get into something they don't know what they're prepared for.
Totally.
Right.
There's one thing I really wanted to ask you about that was, I'm pretty sure it was your first development that you sold?
No, another one you're thinking about was my fourth.
208 Carnarvon?
Yeah, that was my fourth.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
I know.
That's fucking awesome. Where did you actively like seek out those, and how did those conversations go to getting those type of clients?
That client came from me from a referral from one of my builder clients. Cool. And I did compete, but they basically said, if you're selling in New West, call them. Just give them a chance. And so they did and went through it. And I helped that project from everything from the development permit right through to the deficiency walkthroughs, key handovers, you name it. So it was very, very, took a lot of time on it.
Have those been exciting, challenging? Like, what are those?
I love I like the challenge of it for sure. Taking it from start to finish, it was sort of rewarding, right? It wasn't my project, but every time I've done it, even, and I'm sure you've done countless, right? Builds, sell the land, they build it, you sell it. So you maybe even give them tips on the finishes and you name it. Totally. I like being able to do that. I feel like that I've been using the word value a lot, but I feel like it's a huge value, right? I remember doing the color boards with them on that, right? No, don't do this, right? This is what people are after. Stick with the mainstream on that. Like, don't skew, it's not a custom home, right? We don't need to get too out there. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I would love to do more building myself, to be quite honest, because that part of me is very passionate of it. Just haven't went down that road yet.
It's time consuming. I haven't done a full build, but I've watched Jamie do, I think he's done 3, but I've watched him do 2. I like to think I got the benefit of watching a lot of Jamie doing shit and making mistakes.
You know, you get to learn from the mistakes.
100%. There was a couple, yeah. And even just he did a couple big renos. So again, it's just like use all the outlets that you have to gain knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
If your buddy is doing a big renovation, go over to his house, bring him some beer, ask him a bunch of questions. What did you learn about this? Why did you pick that? What did electrical,
I mean, seeing
whatever.
the walls is one thing too, right? Like knowing what's behind it, understanding even like how the plumbing gets from where it starts to where it finishes and, gets to the fixtures. I mean, just knowing that and understanding for for the renovation side, you want to remove a wall. What's likely in that, right? I mean, I'm positive you could think that too. You think it through and go, okay, yeah, the plumbing stack's here, or right, you've got electrical, whatever it is. Maybe this is load bearing, you name it. But you just know that from going through it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know where we're going on the building thing. Oh, you want to do more building?
Yeah, I would like to, absolutely.
I remember, I think it was 2016 that Jamie was building 902 Second. And I remember having a conversation with the client afterwards, just kind of like listening in. And they're asking Jamie about the experience. He GC'd that job too. And it was more like he did it on purpose to learn. And he made some comment like, I am so happy I had Denny because this just literally took up 9 months of my life. And he was like exhausted. But it's such a good learning process.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, he is a very creative human being and he wants to build more, and he's building and hopefully where his family is going to stay for more than 5 years, because I think his wife is sick of moving, but he's building another house.
Don't you think realtors should move more often though, so they understand the pain we put our clients through sometimes?
Man, moving sucks.
Oh, it's awful.
It's so bad.
I offered to get Packers the last time we were moving, and my wife was persistent that we didn't. And I said, okay, but I promise you, like, I don't have the time and capacity, so I'm going to be no help. That's fine. And I remember about 2 days before our new possession, she's like, the garage isn't packed. And I was like, she's going to hate that I said this, but I was like, what did I tell you? She's like, well, you got to do it now. Like, we're in it. And I was like, okay. And I don't have the time for this, but yes, it will be packed.
One of our clients is one of the owners at Laporte Moving.
Oh, yeah.
And their service is so good. So every time I've moved in the last few years, 1, 2, 3 times maybe, I've used his company, and they're so, like, it's so easy. And yeah, they're a premium moving company and it costs money, but like this amount of stress that it relieves is crazy.
But I mean, you get what you pay for.
100%.
Like anything. I mean, yeah, trust that value.
You could pay half,
right?
but it would be stressful and things would be broken and you're not sure if they show up on time, versus like, it was very professional.
Well, I think about
there.
this, like one of the sweetest clients I had last year, and she calls me in tears, and it was over her movers, right? Won't mention the name, but she goes, I think I got the D team. And I was like, the what? And she's like, yeah, they're not even the B or the C. This is the D team. I'm like, what's happening? She goes, my couch is jammed in like my entry hallway right now, and they can't get it out. And I'm watching them scratch the walls. I'm like, did they even take the legs off of the couch? And she's like, no. And she's freaking out. And that must have taken 5 or 6 months to get it repaired. It ended up, what came down is we were like, yeah, they got insurance to get dealt with. We told the buyer was very nice about it. Then it turned out that no, like, yes, they'll repair it, but we had to get the 3 quotes and submit them to them for their approval. And then it had to be prepaid and they'd be reimbursed. And I was like, this is an awful experience, right? So it's in the back of my mind for sure. But I just felt terrible. Such a good person too. And then dealing with that in panic on moving day. And we know how moving day is, right? It's very stressful.
We were talking earlier about like top 3 trades to have good contacts in. And there are other trades that I always feel very reluctant to share names just because I know, and I usually preface them with like, here's a really good mover. Our client's company, Laporte, they're full service. They do everything really well. They're going to show up on time. They're going to do everything that you want them to do. And it's going to be great. It's going to be less stress. It costs money. It's not cheap. Or you could use this other company. They're half the price. It's going to be a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you.
I mean, you could
Like,
look on
this is-
Craigslist
yeah.
too for laborers if you want.
100%.
Like, take your choice. But
Totally. Yeah. I've had like a few clients, and I preface Laporte with that, saying like it's gonna be really good, but it costs money. And they'll whatever look on Craigslist or find a cheap company, and then they're calling me on moving day, being like, they showed up 3 hours late. You know, we have to give keys to the buyer.
like the truck
in
broke
45
down, that one
minutes.
too?
Yeah. Oh
right?
man.
How many times can it break down?
Yeah. They said they're sending 4 people. Only one guy showed up. Like so many things. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Those are one. It is really difficult recommending trades right now because so many people are just so busy.
Yeah.
Like Carl and his dad do really good renos, and they're okay taking on small jobs. But in the last 12 months, they're 12 months away from being able to help
so
you.
crazy.
Well, it's
Right?
harder for you to take on small jobs because of you
Totally.
only have so much capacity too, right?
Yep. We don't really look at small jobs because we're so busy with
Anymore,
the
I
big
know.
jobs and
Yeah.
people that want to do huge renovations. There's so many people, and we're so far behind with that. Someone calls because they're closet doors off the thing. Like it's just there's no point for me to go unless you
Yeah.
want to pay huge amounts of money.
Even sourcing materials probably a huge product or problem for you, right? Like
Sourcing materials, material costs, the prices, everything keeps going up. Yeah, everything makes it more difficult.
the lumber crisis, eh?
Is it going back up again?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
I think because there was a huge jump like a year ago, and then it kind of leveled off for a little bit, and I hear that it's going to go right back up right now.
goodness.
Steel, lots of things.
Seems like Mr. Trudeau's fucked us all, eh? I mean, if you give out, I don't even know the exact number. I don't know if anyone knows the exact number. He probably doesn't know the exact number, but it just seems like hundreds of billions of dollars. Is that an accurate number?
I swear I saw 400 billion the other day.
Hundreds,
like,
there you go.
I skim over articles, but I swear I did see that.
Why is real estate going up so much? Well, there's an extra $400 billion in the economy right now.
Asterisk in case I'm wrong. But no, like seriously,
I mean, yeah,
it's something
whatever.
nuts like that, right?
Totally. It's a funny like topic to have conversations with about clients who are like assuming a slowdown is coming, and you're like, well, interest rates are all-time lows still. Could they go up? Yeah, they probably will go up this year. Maybe 0.5% max. That's still super, super low. There's an extra $400 billion in our economy. Everyone wants to move right now. People are working from home. Like, there's all the check marks that say, I don't think it's slowing down.
I think it's
There's no supply.
yeah. I think it's important to remember too that as a Greater Vancouver market, it's so resilient, right? You look at it from a Canadian perspective, it's different, right? But here, it takes a lot of punches before the market slows down, right? It's not just one thing. An interest rate, Bank of Canada raises the rate by 0.25, that's not changing the market, right? Like that's a daily shock. People talk about it for the news and then we forget about it,
Yeah.
right? And when we talk about the supply crisis, we need a lot of supply to change what we're in right now. It's not a couple more houses, it's a lot.
And municipalities don't seem to have any interest in increasing supply quick enough.
I almost feel like they're holding it back more at this point, or they're making it harder for us to get it.
Yeah.
Right. The process is too tedious or too time consuming, right?
It's funny how much flack the real estate industry, in terms of like real estate salespeople, realtors, take for this on social media.
What do you mean? You
right?
guys are controlling it all, aren't you?
It's funny, dude. It's so crazy. When we'll post a
No
new
comment.
dude, we'll post a new listing that says like, "Hey, 3-bedroom townhouse for sale, $999, whatever."
Yeah.
And people will comment on it, being like, "You guys are all crooks. Like you're setting the market, whatever,
yeah.
whatever."
Yeah.
We're not paying for every single list. Like
Oh.
buyers are showing up and paying for this, right?
Right.
Like this is what the market is determining. We're not doing this.
No, I remind people a lot of time that we're also our own worst enemies because we are making the transactions as the public, right? Not as realtors. We are we as everybody are buying and selling these homes. So the public is okay with the price as much as we're not, right? Like gas prices. Well, then again, you drive an EV, but from that perspective, no one stops driving and says this is crazy,
Exactly.
right? We need it. You need a roof over your head. That will always be a fact.
My gas expense went from $6,000 a year to $400.
Jeez.
in electricity. Isn't that crazy?
Thought maybe you want an ATV, so that's where your $400 in
Yeah,
gas
where's the
went.
$400 going?
What? No, not in gas.
Just powering
in,
a boat on the
electricity.
weekend?
Okay.
That's a rough
That's your
calculation.
annual.
I'm just
Okay.
guessing roughly 400 or 500.
I've
maybe.
asked a number of Tesla owners, if you will, how much it costs to fill their tank up, and most don't actually know, but I've always been curious.
So I had a friend who has a Tesla who he's a very, very big Elon Musk fan.
Okay.
He's been on the podcast. He's a wicked dude. He calculated it as 3 cents a kilometer in electricity costs if you're only charging at home.
Yeah.
If you're using the superchargers, obviously that's more expensive,
Yeah.
but 3 cents a kilometer. Just so cheap. It's crazy. So even if you drive 30,000 kilometers in a year, which is probably high, I think I'm driving maybe like 25. 30,000 is $900. So maybe 25 is $750. It's a lot cheaper than $6,000. That's what I spent the last time I had a gas car a couple of years ago.
That's a lot of driving. How many kilometers were you doing a year?
I'd say 25-ish.
That's a lot.
You just keep driving, right? Like our job is just to
Yeah,
drive
you
around.
never stop. I've returned so many leases early because they hit 80,000 kilometers.
Yeah,
I don't want it
exactly.
when the warranty's out. I was at a point, 30 to 35 a year. I'm like, this is not. Yeah. 2 leases ago, I think I had it for 26 months only, and I returned it with 79,952. And they were so happy though because it had a diesel exhaust issue before, which was part of why I'm like, I don't want to keep this past warranty. But they did the once over before they would resell it because I guess they do the certified pre-owned, right? And there was an oil, and he's like, yeah, that would have cost you, I don't know, $4 or $5 grand. And I was like, well, that's your problem. So
I told you about
Thank
the
you.
Jag return, right? Yeah. So my last car before the Tesla was a Jag SUV. It was a lease. I took it back. I got the Tesla, I think, in August. And the Jag, it was during COVID. So the Jag lease wasn't up until October. And I called them and I'm like, can I return it early? Because my previous car, they let me return it like 6 months early. And they're like, yeah, whatever, just take it back. The Jag dealership said no. It's like, no, because of COVID, the resale market of cars is down. So this is early COVID, like 2020. You can't. You got to keep it. So I just kept it. I just left it in my underground basically because I was driving the Tesla most of the time. And the battery went to shit. So I tried to be conscious of starting it once a month, taking it to appointments once a week, taking it to appointments, whatever, to try to keep the battery alive. Anyway, the day I go to return this car, October 22nd, 2020, I think, doesn't start. I think I asked you for your spare battery.
I gave you my power bank.
You had a
yes.
starter.
And
the jumpers, right?
And we couldn't even find the battery because it's in the back of it's in the trunk.
You got to look at the instructor or the manual half the time to find them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They do that for weight. Yeah.
So we found it. It was in the trunk underneath the spare tire or
Yes.
something. It was fucking hard to get to.
Yeah, because you have to lift everything up off
You
of
need
it.
2 humans to get to it. Like you need to unscrew
Two
like
full-size
19
humans.
things. It was crazy. Anyway, we get to it. Start it with his little jumper thing.
Yeah. Lifesaver.
Yeah. Those
And
things are awesome.
But I'm driving this thing to the Jag dealership, which is on Broadway and 4th, maybe, something like
it's
that
on
in
4th,
Vancouver
yeah.
from North
Burrard and
Boundary.
4th. Yeah.
Burrard and 4th.
Yeah. The corner MCL.
And I'm driving down there, and at red lights, the thing would just turn off. It was terrifying.
It had that auto stop and start too, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but I turned that off.
okay.
So, as I'm driving, when you hit the gas, the radio would turn off and on. The radio was on and it would just shut off and then turn on and then shut off. And same with the lights in the
You're
car.
just praying
the
to get
dashboard
there,
would
hey?
turn off and then turn on.
Because you have no battery. Your car is running off the alternator completely. So you should have just turned everything off.
See,
man.
I don't understand this shit.
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
I'm just living this nightmare of just being
Yeah,
I just
turn
need
the
to get this
radio
car to
off.
the dealership. I just need to
no
get
lights,
AC,
no
nothing.
AC,
Yeah.
nothing.
Run with your daytime running
the
lights.
last
that's it.
turn, whatever it is on Burrard, I'm turning right on Burrard, and as I'm going through the intersection, the car just turns off, and so the power steering is gone. So I'm cranking the thing like this to turn it around the corner, And I get into the parking lot. Oh my God. I walk in to whatever, the lady that was helping me. I say, hey, I'm just returning the car. I talked to you yesterday. She's like, okay, no problem. It's like, you don't need to do like a walk around
Yeah,
thing.
like
She's
look at it.
She's like, is it okay? I was like, yeah, it's fine. I think the battery might have a slight issue. She's like, okay, no problem. And I just take off.
And they didn't call you? Nothing, eh?
No, that's it. That was a bad one, though.
Almost rolled it home.
I basically rolled it in the parking lot.
Oh man. And I'm sure they sold it a couple days later.
Probably. I mean, used cars are crazy.
Yeah. So crazy right now.
Yeah, cars are not. I love cars.
A lot of used cars are more expensive or as expensive as brand new cars.
Because you have to wait 6 to 9 months a year for a new car.
Yeah. Well, I just returned one 2 Mondays ago, and it's on. So I put 31,000 kilometers on it in a little over a year. And it had some issues. That's why I went back. But it's on for more than I bought it at the time. It's got 31,000 clicks on it. So I was like, and I knew they were going to do that. But just waiting, checking Auto Trader.
I put a deposit on a new Tesla that is not, I think I put a deposit on like October, and it was supposed to be delivered in March or April, but I haven't even heard from them, so I assume it's going to be longer than that. I'm almost just thinking I should just get it and sell it. Maybe make 20 grand.
If you
Probably
ordered
could,
a
yeah.
vehicle every time, right? Pick one up, order another one. Year later, cycle it. A free car eventually.
I know. Anyway, my point of bringing up, why did I bring up cars? Oh, driving around the city. Basically, that's what we do. I went to, so my brother who is a builder, they bought a house in New West a couple weeks ago. And I go over to his house the next morning to pick up the deposit. And his wife is there with the kids, and the kids are showing me around their new home because they just moved. And one of the kids says to me, he's like, what are you doing today? I was like, oh, I'm working. He's like, you're working right now? I'm like, yeah, I'm working. This is my work.
This is work.
Picking up a deposit. It's like, well, what do you doing? I was like, well, I just drive around the city and talk to people. That's what I said. He's like, that's your job? I'm like, yeah. He's like, and they give you money for that? I was like, yeah, I get paid. He's like, whoa. He's 7.
Sounds
He's
like an
my little
intern
nephew.
waiting to happen, eh? A summer gig or something.
He's 7. And I told his mom the next day, and she's just laughing. She's like, oh, he's definitely going to ask me about that. It's just so funny. It's funny the way that every time I get asked what I do for a living, I feel like I answer the question differently. I don't know if you have the same thing, but like, I'm a realtor, but that's not really like my job. My job is more, I always define my job in 2 things. One, I am a relationship manager. That's what I think. I think I communicate with people, have to figure out how they like to be communicated with, present information in that way that they will receive information, whatever. It's just like a juggle of figuring out who people are and trying to assist them in whatever way they're going to receive info. And then 2, I'm a problem solver and firefighter, problem solver, whatever. And literally all day you're just like trying to figure out the best solution of an issue.
No, absolutely. I mean, and I
That's
always
it.
say like an advisor is a big one, right? You only give people the ammunition to make the decision. They're going to make it. Doing that just left, right, and center, right?
Totally.
But
Like
we
you
wear a
could
lot
say
of hats.
counselor
Like,
in
right?
markets like this.
You name it, psychologist.
Yeah. It's crazy. And how much training do we have for any of these positions? 0. None.
No.
Other than just like hundreds of transactions.
It's
right?
experience,
Like,
right?
Totally.
That's where I'm sure you're in a deal and you think back to a different property where something similar happened and how you can use what happened that time to give your client good advice this time around, right?
100%. It's such a fun industry, man. It's like unlimited potential, which is what I really like about real estate, is there's just so many avenues. Yes, you could be a salesperson today and build a business in that capacity and like hire people and bring on new realtors and an assistant that runs the business for you. And then you can take a step back from that and then go into pre-sales for new
No
developers.
day is the same either.
It's
Right.
so
There's
great,
all,
yeah.
and that's whether it's the clients you're dealing with, the properties you're dealing with, the market that we're in, you name it. Like we're always thinking on our on our feet, right?
I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's so crazy. It's so much fun.
Yeah, well, and you know what? When you get to work with good people, it makes it a lot easier, right?
And it is really cool to look back over the years and see, like, yes, there's very challenging situations. Yes, there's there's clients that have very different personalities. So there's like a little bit of a struggle to kind of figure out how that relationship's going to go. But the majority is just like a lot of fun and a lot of like excitement when the sale or buy happens. And it's crazy to look back and see how many like pretty good friends you've built
That's
out of the
very
people that
true
you've helped.
too, right? Because you are friends with them for a period of time, whether they like it or not.
You're literally
Right?
best friends.
Yeah,
You're texting them a dozen times a day for months on end,
Yeah.
right? It's really cool.
no, it is. It's funny when a client will be like, "Oh, we haven't heard from you in months because we moved," and like, "We miss you." It's like, yeah, you create those relationships,
Totally.
and it's super rewarding when you get to help good people and they're happy with everything, and you get to see that through, right?
Monica and I
Nuts.
were at a showing today in Port Moody. Hilariously awesome, like young couple, like our age. And they're just so funny. And every showing with them is just a full entertainment adventure. Like it's just hilarious. They're swearing and like being sarcastic and being like, those pricks that bought that last house for 2.6. Now we got to pay more for this. You know, like it's just funny. And every single time I see them, I think like, man, these people would be like really good people to be friends with long term and have a beer with on their patio.
Well,
when
it
they
is.
buy
I
this
mean,
thing and
the
whatever.
definition of a good client, right, is like the one that you can have the beer with afterwards, too,
100%.
right? That, yeah. No, we're in a great industry that we're lucky to be in and get to work with good people again. Yeah.
Should we wrap up? It's 8:30. Should probably
Yeah,
get
we did good though. Appreciate you having me.
pretty good. It's really good to chat, man. I haven't outside of like doing deals
Yeah,
together.
show
I
this
haven't
house, sell
really-
it together, and move on again.
Totally. It's funny that that's the way our industry works, to be honest, is like, I feel like I have a lot of pretty good friends in our industry that our relationship is purely transactional, right? Like you communicate with each other when you have a sweet listing and my
Yeah,
buyer's
it's like,
trying to see
and we're
it
on the
we
phone
offer
like
it.
we are best friends, right?
Totally.
Which is totally fine, and
Totally.
get it done, keep everyone happy, and
But,
it's on to
yeah.
the next one.
But outside of that, like you're just so busy in your own personal shit that you don't go out of your way to do other stuff. So it was good to chat. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.